Hi everybody, this is Simular, and today we're doing episode 1 of our latest playthrough. For this playthrough we're going to be focusing on dairy farming, so we'll only be growing cattle or raising cattle and spending the majority of our time cutting, mowing, harvesting grass to make grass, hay, and silage for the cattle. We will be doing some grain, but it's mostly just for the straw, for the bedding and for filler in our TMR. One thing to note is for this playthrough I've challenged myself to use specifically just bales. Normally I just mow the grass, leave it loose, and then pick it up with a forage wagon and store it in a hay loft, but I think that's getting a little too easy, and so I wanted to get the extra challenge of dealing with bales and picking them up, loading them onto wagons. Also for this playthrough we're using seasons. It's something I haven't used before, so it's going to be a learning experience for me as we go through this. What else did I want to touch on? Oh, mods. I'll mention them as I use them, but for this game we're only using mods that are available on the mod hub, with the exception of one, which is the GPS mod. I don't know why it's not on mod hub, but it's not. And for me, it's pretty essential because otherwise I can't do straight lines down the field without it. Fortunately, console players aren't able to use it, which is a shame, but it is the way it is. So I just started this new game. It's day 1 of early spring, and actually before we go any further, just gonna change it to 3-day seasons. Starting out we don't have a lot to do, so if we have it any longer than 3 days, we're gonna spend a lot of time just fast forwarding, which I think is a waste. So in the interim, we'll start at 3 days, and then if we start running out of time, then we'll bump it up. Let's plan on only bumping it up during the winter. I think that's what's recommended, just so we're not messing with plant growth. So it's still pretty early. It's still dark out. Let me fast forward for the sun to come up. Okay, the sun has come up. I kind of wanted to show you, this is Goldcrest Valley, which is the default map for Farming Simulator 17. We do start out with the case tractor. It's got quite a few hours on it. A case harvester, I think, also with quite a few hours. And if you've never used seasons before, typically when you start a new game, this field is ready to be harvested, but seasons kind of kills all that, and it leaves you with barren fields, so we have to cultivate and plant from scratch. There's a New Holland tractor here with a cultivator behind it. And on this other field, so you start out with fields 12, 14, and 15. I think to start out with, I'm going to make 14 my grain field, and I'm going to plant grass on 15. And as we start to get more and more cattle, and we need more and more grass, I'll probably change, or rather I'll leave this barren for now, and then I'll plant grass on 12. And that'll give us quite a bit more grass area to mow for more food for the cattle. So over here we have this case again with quite a few hours, and this Great Plains sower, which is nice because it sows and fertilizes in one pass. One thing I don't like about it is with the wheels down, it gets kind of high-centered when it's turning around. It's not going to be an issue in this game because we're not going to be using helpers, but a lot of times, like for example here, the tractor gets to the end of the row. When it goes to turn around, it kind of gets high-centered and stuck, and it drives off into this into the rocks out here, and it gets stuck, and then you have to unhire the helper and bring the tractor back down. So shouldn't be an issue here. We're not planning on hiring any helpers. Um, so to start out, we're going to need the cultivator to cultivate both of these fields. Before that, I'd like to put down a layer of fertilizing. I think when we start out, I'd have to check. The game gives us some seeds and some solid fertilizer, and since we're gonna have front loader arms for the bales, we can use those arms to lift the pallets up. And oh, we do actually get liquid fertilizer. I think solid fertilizer is the best, but I kind of have this thing where I like to mix it up. I don't like to use solid fertilizer for all three phases or fertilizer applications. The Great Plains sower will use this solid fertilizer, so I think just to mix things up, we'll get us a sprayer and use the liquid fertilizer. And then, look, actually that's the solid fertilizer. Seeds are over here. We start out with 20,000. We're able to increase, let's see here, finances. We'll start out with 20,000. We already have a $75,000 loan. We're able to increase that to 300,000 to purchase new vehicles. Also, what I like to do starting out is basically selling everything and starting out with a tractor that has 0 hours on it, just for maintenance purposes. The daily upkeep is lower with a newer tractor, and with seasons you're forced to do periodic maintenance on it. So I think having a brand new tractor will be beneficial for us. I'll probably keep this tipper. It's a perfect size for us starting out. We're also going to need obviously a mower. We're going to need a tedder for making the hay, and then we'll need a windrower, and we'll also need a baler. The round baler is quite a bit cheaper than the square baler, so we'll have to start out with that one, although I hate round bales because they tend to roll on you, and I hate chasing them down the hill. Let's see here, there's a round one, it's 58,000, whereas the square baler is 102, so it's almost double. The round baler has a wrapper here for the silage, is 42,000. The game doesn't come with a wrapper for square bales, but if you purchase the Kuhn pack, it does come with a wrapper there for both square and round bales. So I highly recommend getting the Kuhn package. Let's see, and then the standard trailer for stacking bales. We'll see how much money we have, but we could spring for the $39,000 auto loader for the round bales. For square bales, they have this auto loader that's 70,000. So round baler is obviously a cheaper option, and it's probably going to be the way we go starting out. And then once we kind of build an empire, we can sell all that stuff and spring for the square bale stuff. Here's some mod stuff that I downloaded, but we can get to it later. So baler, tedder, windrower. I like the bigger one, but 62,000 is pretty expensive. The narrower one, 9.3 meters, is 28,000. I think that's probably going to be the way for us to go. the mowers, I normally get in the Pottinger mowers. I obviously start out with a single one for the front, and we'll probably go ahead and get the rear ones just so we can have the full ensemble of mowers. I think it's worth it. Otherwise, you're trying to mow the whole field with a 3-meter mower, and it just takes forever. So I think what we're going to do first is sell everything we have and see what kind of tractor we can afford. We'll have quite a bit of options, but to be honest with you, I like the Case tractors. I think for the money they've got the best power output and relatively low daily maintenance costs. So the Puma, and then later upgrade to the Optum, and then the biggest one is the Magnum. I think we'll always have to have at least a Puma because the Puma can handle the front loader. The Optum is already too big for front loader arms. So we'll always need at least one of these, and then maybe if we can upgrade, we can get a Puma and Optum, or just stick with the Puma. None of the stuff we're using is requires a great deal of power until we start upgrading sewing machines and cultivators. That's where we'll need to upgrade tractors. But in the meantime, the mower, the tedder, windrower, balers, all that kind of stuff we can run with a smaller tractor. And then also we'll need a sprayer, just the basic 24,000 15-meter sprayer. I don't usually ever spring for the extra tank, unless you're driving out to faraway fields. It's just not worth it. And then later game we can get the wider and more expensive Toad sprayer. It's 28 meters wide. Yeah, I think that's it so far. Front loader arms, we'll need a spring for these. The FZ60 for the Case, it's a bigger tractor, so we need the bigger arms. We'll obviously need a pallet fork. I think it's good to have a universal bucket just for whatever reason. It's not too expensive and it's good to have around. I use it for cleaning up the grassy area in front of the dairy pen. As the cows eat, they tend to kind of make a mess, and the game kind of forces you to clean that up to maintain the optimum milk production. And since we're starting out with the round bales, we can go with this fork, which works pretty well. I think step one is going to be selling everything, so I need to make sure not to sell the cultivator and the sower, because we'll need to plant something here pretty quick. But I'm going to go ahead and sell this because we're not going to harvest anything until the fall. Otherwise it's just going to be sitting there costing us money. So we'll start with that one. Okay, you just want to make sure anything you want to sell, you park it within the boundaries of these yellow and black lines. Let's go ahead and get out of this. The icon for selling stuff is this little tractor with a dollar sign. You just walk up to it, hit R. Pulls up this option, direct selling, customization. We're not wanting to customize it, we're wanting to sell it. Get 75,000 for it. So let's sell that. We're left with the header. I have noticed that R won't work if you stay here after you sell something. you have to kind of step back and then step back into it, and there you go. It'll give you the option to sell the next item. We're getting $5,300 for it. Sell that. Okay, and now we're stuck at the shop with no way to get back. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, hit tab. This takes us to our next vehicle, which in this case is the New Holland tractor. This one's got 26 hours. And, well, I'm going to go ahead and sell all three of them anyway, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is move the cultivator kind of out towards the central area. Before we take off. So let's just park it right here. And this will be a quicker ride to the shop. Okay, and then pull it into the sell point. Cut the engine, get out. Same song and dance. Alright, tab over to this guy. This one's got a little bit more hours on it, 35. The other thing I don't like about these, the smaller cases, is they don't have a place for you to hook on front attachments. It's got a built-in weight, but if you wanted to attach that front mower, you can't do it to this tractor. The New Holland we did have that we sold does have that option, but this one doesn't. Luckily, the other case tractors do have the front attachment arms. And so, okay, tab to the last tractor. And I want to keep this tipper, but I'd like to go ahead and put it in the cover. So let's just put it here. Alrighty. Sell that. I also want to sell the pickup truck. I never use it. It's just taking up space. So, $17,000. Okay, so no more tractors, no more harvesters. Step one will be 233,000. So we have $308,000. Let's go to the store menu, tractor. We want the Puma. Where is it? There it is. 192. Go ahead and get the arms for it. I like to go ahead and just, let's see, is this worth $22,000? What's the difference? Goes from 165 kilowatts, 225 horsepower to 270 horsepower. But it also bumps up our daily maintenance costs. I think I'll just keep it standard for now. Maybe bump it up later. And I like going with the wide tires. Just looks cooler. So $194,600. Okay, so we have the tractor. Let's go ahead and get a weight on it. And don't need a particularly big one. So I'm just gonna go with the 700 pounder. Buy $600. Take a look at our new purchase. Not bad. See, there's those front attachment arms I was telling you about earlier. Looks clean. That's where the front loader arms attach. So we're good to go. Oh, I forgot to get the sprayer. Dang it. Alright, let's go back. Okay, so into the shop. Sprayers. There you go. And we're going to get this guy. 24,000. Okay. Back, back, back. And actually what I'm going to do, since I'm already here, I'm just going to buy fertilizer here and then just fill it up. That way I'm not using up fertilizer I already have at the farm, and I can save that for later. It'll save me a trip, an extra trip down later on down the road. Let me check though. Capacity is 1200 and each tank is 2000, so I guess we'll just need one and we'll have a little extra. It'll just be sitting here for the next time. Yes, back, back. Okay, I'll back up to it and fill up. Okay, back to the farm again. Okay, so field 15 will be the one that we plant grass in. 14 will be our grain field. So I definitely want to spray 14. So this is where that GPS mod I was telling you about comes into play. When you pull it up, it has a green center line, and then it has red dash lines for the size of your implement. As you can see right now, on the lower left, the mod is set up for 6 meters wide. This mod has a shortcut, I believe it's Control 3. Yeah, that automatically bumps it up to the width of the implement you're using. So in this case it's 15 meters. And what you want to do, control left and right, maybe control shift left and right, shifts your course to line it up how you want it to be. So line up that red dash line with the edge of the field and you're set to go. So then to lock onto it, control W, you hear it beep, and you see the little satellite dish has the signal coming out, and I don't know if you noticed, but the wheel's kind of turned over to the left because it's trying to line up with the green line. We're off to the right a little bit, so if you go forward it'll just automatically center with that. You can go back and forth a little bit to make sure you're lined up on it. So there we are. And the cruise control, I like to keep it at 12 and then let the implement dictate the speed. So now that we're locked into the GPS, we're ready to go. We'll turn on the cruise, and then right at the beginning of the field we'll hit B to turn on the sprayer. And there you go. So like I said, it sticks us to 7 miles an hour, which is, there's nothing really we can do about it. The only thing we can do is just hang on for the ride. The 7 miles is, it's pretty slow, but with a 15-meter width, it actually goes by pretty quickly. So turn that off and then turn around. And then Shift W to lock back on. And then turn our sprayer back on. So you can kind of see for field 15 we used just a little under 250 liters of liquid fertilizer. And then I'm going to move over to this field 14 and just kind of eyeball it. Eyeball where you want to line up. Hit Control Enter, and then it's pretty close, but Control Shift to the left will get us perfect. Control W to lock on. Let me just double check and make sure I'm perfectly straight, and then get to spraying. So we're finished here. Like I said, I'm going to keep that field as is for now until we need it. So I'm going to set this sprayer down and then we'll move on to the next phase, which will be cultivation. I kind of want to leave the sprayer over here with the fertilizer. So let's back this in here. Lower, detach. Now that I'm thinking about it, let me go grab the sower. I'm going to put it in the cover. It's not raining or anything. We've got clear skies, so it's not going to affect anything. And I think even if it did get caught out in the rain, it wouldn't affect anything. It's just a matter of making things look nice. So clip that on and let's pull it back in under the awning. Let's put it right here. This will be my cultivator slash sower bay. So now we're going to cultivate fields 14 and 15. I'm going to start over here, just like the spraying. We're a little bit narrower now, so what we're going to do is Control Enter so it can snap to where our tractor is. And then we're going to do Control 3 and it snaps to our width, which is 3 meters. Which you can see in the little GPS HUD over on the left. And then I'm going to shift this track over to the edge of the field and then activate the GPS, line it up, lower the cultivator down, and then just hit our cruise control. So the cultivator in this tractor, we're right at 10 miles an hour. So I think that's the max speed for the cultivator, so that's kind of lets us know that the tractor's not overpowered. If you see it getting bogged down, especially on an uphill, it starts to get kind of bogged down and slow down. It just kind of lets you know that the tractor's slightly underpowered for what we're doing here. Alright, we'll line back up. And so it's just really just a slow and tedious process of going up and down 3 meters at a time for this entire field, and then that field over there. Okay, we're coming up on the last pass of the cultivator for this field. Once again, it's not going to be a full pass, but that's okay. And that looks like a beautifully cultivated field. So the next step would be to run the sprayer again for fertilization number 2, and then plant, in this case would be planting our grass. And like I said, this particular sower also fertilized this, so that'll be our 3rd fertilization. And now we move on to next field, 14. This one's a little bit larger, so it's going to take a little longer, but that's okay. Just crank up the music. There we go, lined up, locked in. And then we'll get to work. Okay, so we're finishing up our last pass with the cultivator on field 14. And we're done. What I want to do now is spray 14 and 15 to give it that 2nd fertilization, and then we can move on to the sowing machine, put seed down, and our last fertilization phase. Just put this under cover. And go look for our sprayer. So we used a little over half the first time through. Go ahead and top off the fertilizer, just so I know we have enough. field seems to be a little bit bumpier this time. Well, that was quick and painless. That certainly took a lot less time than the cultivating. So now that we're done here, we're gonna attach the sowing machine, fill it up with seed, with solid fertilizer, and then we'll start putting seed in the ground. One thing I wanted to note here is I don't want to fill it all the way up to the top. I plan on selling this thing as soon as we're done planting here, and any seed or any fertilizer that's still in the machine, can't remove it, and so when you sell it, you basically lose it. So because of that, I'm just going to fill it up to halfway. And if we end up running out and have to fill up again, then that's fine, but I'd rather have to make an extra trip back to fill up than lose a lot of extra material. Make sure we close the lids when we're done. Alright. Start with 15 again, and 15 was the one we're going to put grass down, so let's change this crop type. If you look over on the bottom right, it's currently set to wheat, and we just have to find grass. There we go. Let's turn on our sewing machine, lower it into place, and get going. Okay, we're finishing up here. I did want to say before we start the next field, please remember to change your crop type. It's Y, I think. I gotta turn it off first. There you go. It's Y on the keyboard. It's incredibly frustrating whenever you forget to switch it and you sit through, wait until the crop matures and then go to harvest and you realize it's the wrong crop. I think really we just need either wheat or barley. All we're trying to do is get some straw. We'll probably just do wheat this time around and kind of see how it goes. Also, we're at 20% on the seed. I think the solid fertilizer will probably be fine. We just put a little dent into it, but I'm gonna go ahead and put in some more seed. Let's see, seed is the green pallets. $78, close enough. Okay, just double check we're on wheat, so crank this thing back up. Okay, so we're finishing up sowing the last of this field. We've got both fields planted. That field over there with grass, this one with wheat. Let's get to the end here. Turn off. I did have to refill the seed a little bit and I overestimated and I'm stuck with 23% of the bin capacity. I'm sorry, I guess that's the fertilizer. The seed, just a little under 20%. I mentioned earlier I wanted to sell this sower and the little cultivator we've been using. Before that though, I want to go into the store and I want to check and make sure the tractor we have is going to be strong enough to pull the upgraded versions. So what we have here are Pumas. Puma is currently sitting at 225 horsepower. If we go to cultivators, let's see. This is the one we currently have. You can see here by the little garage logo with the 1 next to it. Requires 120. This one is upgraded to 4 meters. Requires 160. I was hoping to get 6 meters. So I think this is the one we're looking for, 6 meters. It's just your standard cultivator. The power requirement's 180 horsepower, which is a little bit less than what our tractor's putting out, so that should actually work for next time around. The Terradisc 600. Sewing machines. This is the one we have now. And The one I'm kind of eyeing, this one's nice. We have plenty power for it, but it doesn't fertilize as it seeds. So what we'd have to do is run the sprayer again after planting, which really isn't an issue. It's just more work. This one does apply fertilizer with the seed. It is a little bit wider. It's the 9 meter, but our tractor isn't strong enough for it. So I think what we're stuck with is the 6 meter sower, and we'll just have to fertilize a third time. That means we can go ahead and sell these two, and then what I'll plan on doing is next year when we're ready to cultivate and sow again, I'll just lease those two machines. If we look at our map here, turn grass back on, flip over to growth, our two fields are growing, and if we look at the fertilization state, they're both at the 3rd level, so fully fertilized and growing. Now the only thing left to do is just wait for the crops to grow so we can harvest the wheat and mow the grass. All this grass out here, if you see, it's still under harvested, which pretty much just means it's not mature enough to mow. So what that means is we're going to be playing the waiting game now. I think that's pretty much all we can do for this first day. We'll probably just fast forward to the end of the day until at sunset is when Seasons allows us to skip over to the next day. And then we can skip over to tomorrow. In the meantime, what I like to do at the end of the day, I say the end of the day, it's 10 in the morning, but done all we can do here, is I like to wash my tractor down so it's not dirty. So what we'll need to do, buy a power washer. I believe that's under placeables. There you go, $4,500. I think about right there. Escape out of that. Escape out of this. Pull the tractor up. It's really not that dirty. The wheels are dirty, but for the most part it's pretty clean. Cleanish. So I just pull up close. And let's get out. And hit F1. Turn on high pressure washer R. There we go. And then just start spraying. And let's get back in here. We'll park it in the shed. The other thing I like to do before the day's over is get into our finances tab in the menu. And here we go. Try to knock down as much of this loan as we can. We currently have 92,000 on hand, so we should be able to knock it all down. There we go. Down to 17,000, but at least we're at 0 debt. And now the only thing left to do is fast forward the time to the max, which is 120 times. And then we'll just wait until sundown when, let's see if we hit F1, it should tell us there that it's okay to skip to the next day. Okay, so we've gone into the future here. We're past sunset of day 1. It's a nice view there. If you look at the menu up at the top left, it gives us the option to go ahead and skip the night. So let's go ahead and do that. Skip the night. And let's just go to dawn. Okay, here we are. That's the morning of day 2. If we pull up our map again, our grass is growing. It shows harvested, which basically just means it's at its first state. If we walk over here, you can see the field is completely green now, but it's not mature enough to mow yet. Let me see here. Our wheat, it's growing, but hasn't even come up out of the ground yet. Believe me, it's down there. Also, the grass around the map has turned to yellow, which is the first stage of harvest, and we can go ahead and start mowing this, but we wouldn't be getting full yield out of it. So I'm not going to mess with it until tomorrow. By tomorrow, it should be fully mature. So what we're going to do is go ahead and fast forward again to day 3. I know you guys might think this is kind of boring, but with seasons, it just starts out pretty slow. That's the unfortunate thing. And you're probably thinking, hey, this is a dairy farm and we don't have any cows, but unfortunately I don't have anything to feed these cows, so can't buy cows yet. All we can do is just sit here and wait. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward again. Okay, the end of day 2 is here, so let's go ahead and skip the night and skip till dawn. Let's see here. The grass is still growing. Doesn't look like much has changed since yesterday. Okay, it's the evening of day 3. It's, as you can see, it's raining right now. We have the option to go ahead and skip the night again, so let's do that. Wake up at dawn. And it's the beginning of summer already. Okay, let's see where we are. So yeah, the grass is now at its final harvest stage, which is where I like to mow it. So I think what we're going to do starting today is we'll go ahead and get our mowing equipment, mower, tedder, windrower, and baler. And we'll probably stick to the sides of the roads and sides of the fields. We'll just get a couple bales of each kind just to get started. Go and get some cows going. And starting tomorrow, that field should be ready to completely mow. So we'll get all that mowed and baled and then take it from there. Really appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to follow along on future videos, the rest of this playthrough, please hit the subscribe button down below. Appreciate it. Until next time. Thanks.